So I'm here to talk a little bit about secret number 2. Why is my SUDS not going down? So one of the problems that we have as EMDR therapists is really trying to get an accurate SUDS from our clients. And this is especially important when we're trying to determine whether we should install phase 5 or if we're still in phase 4. So an important thing to remember is when you're in phase 4, the client often has an upheaval of a lot of emotion. And then you'll have that emotion sort of start to subside. And that's usually a good place to get a SUDS. I think we probably would agree on that. And so you might say, okay, so if we go back to the target where we started with your arguing with your mother in the kitchen or whatever it is, the negative belief of whatever that is, and what's your level of distress right now on a scale of 0 to 10? So, that's a typical way to get a SUDS. But the client just had this upheaval of emotional distress. And so their distress level, although you can sense some relief, might still be high. So there are situations where it's really important. You have to work a little bit harder as the therapist to get an accurate SUDS. So what you might say, after there's an upheaval and you think there's a shift. So if we go back to that original target, that target where you're arguing with your mother in the kitchen that we started with, just that picture, nothing else, none of this other stuff you processed about, this other stuff that happened to you, none of that. If you can just separate that, set that aside. And if you just think about just that picture, with with the argument that you had with your mother, and just see that for a moment. And now keep that in your mind's eye. When you think of just that, what's the level of distress that occurs within your emotion and your body? How distressing is that specific, just that moment right now here in front of me? So that's a little bit more work than we typically would do. But sometimes the client really has to be educated as to what exactly do you want as the therapist from them. So you really have to tell them. So you have to be very specific and really focus on just that singular moment. None of this other stuff that that you have stirring around, bouncing around in your head. If you can just eliminate this and just compartmentalize that for a moment and just see that moment, it's usually a good way to get an accurate SUDS, and you'll be surprised that if you work a little bit harder, the SUDS level indeed has dramatically decreased. So that's the secret number 2. Make sure that you explain clearly to your client that you're just asking them the distress level on the specific moment that you targeted at the beginning and not any other material that was processed in that session, so you can get an accurate SUDS just on the target, because that's all we're really interested in.